Welcome back to Mock the Mock, where we take a look at someone else's mock draft and I mock it, giving you my views, thoughts, and opinions. And if you didn't know, now you know. What's crack-a-lackin'? I'm your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. As always, let me know what you think in the comment section below. We'll have our college football watch along tomorrow, so be there for that. It's always a ton of fun. But today, we're looking at the Goathouse. If you don't know who he is, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing. He puts out really good NFL and NFL draft content. Big fan. He's been on the channel a couple times. Good guy. But we're going to take a look at his mock. And let's go ahead and do the dang thing. Now, if you didn't know, he does this 8 by 8 by 8 by 8. So we're going to go ahead and look at his first 8 picks and go over them. And we're gonna start here. Don't know. Oh, order. Okay, order is determined by FanDuel Super Bowl odds, because I know y'all get all butthurt about the NFL draft order on these mocks right now, and you want to come and defend your team, la-di-da. I get it, I hear you, but you know what, we're pulling this draft order a lot from Vegas betting odds, so if you got a problem with it, go take it up with them. But he has the Houston Texans first, going Will Anderson. I'm going quarterback. Listen, if I'm the Texans, I'm drafting first overall. I get it. You want to get the best player in the draft, but the most valuable position on a roster is quarterback. And you see a quarterback go with the next pick. So why don't you do it if you're the Texans? If you're drafting first overall, leads me to believe two things. Davis Mills got hurt early, didn't really get a chance to look at him, or he sucked for you. He's a third-round pick. Go ahead, get a bona fide first rounder with great pedigree. You get your pick of the whole draft of what quarterback you want here. First overall, you're going quarterback. So that's just my take on it. Now we got Atlanta Falcons, who decide to, well, hey, if Texans, hey, I ain't going to take a quarterback, we will. We took Desmond Ridder in the third round, but that ain't going to stop us. They go CJ Stroud, who has an NFL arm, NFL size. Makes all the sense in the world. Looks good against Notre Dame. So they go with him there. Bryce Young now comes off the board for the Seahawks. So I'm looking at this like, all right, if I'm the Texans and you look at the first 3 picks, 2 quarterbacks go off the board and you're not a part of that, there's something wrong there. There's something wrong there. That's just my opinion. So Seahawks go Bryce Young. No, they need a quarterback. They're going to be starting a backup caliber quarterback. Geno Smith. Drew Lock has proved he has no business being an NFL starter. So yes, they're going quarterback. They get, in my opinion, the best quarterback in this draft. For me, not a lot of guys can touch Bryce Young in this class. I love this. No one controls the middle of the field like Bryce Young. Now we move on to the New York Football Jets, who get Jalen Carter. So we know that Robert Saleh, he loves his depth along the defensive line, and Jalen Carter would just add to that. You could go, that dates back to San Fran, where they just keep adding defensive line talent. So he's doing it here. Yeah, they got Quinnen Williams, but you got best believe that dude, I don't know if they see a future with that guy. Like, we'll find out. Do they sign him to a long-term deal, or do they maybe hit him with that 5th-year option? I don't know. You got Josh Myers Franklin. I always forget which way it goes. He's this hybrid, can play on the outside, can play on the inside. It's got great size. So just adding more depth on that interior. I don't mind. Jalen Carter is a top 5 prospect in this class. Jaguars, they go Peter Skoronski. A bit interesting because honestly, you could they extended Cam Robinson. You got like some if, ands, and maybes when it comes to who do they got at right tackle? Oh my gosh, why is it slipping my mind? Florida tackle had a pretty good and 8 games his rookie year down the stretch. It's kind of been in a slump since then. I'm blanking. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Here we go. Jags offensive. Let's just go offense, depth chart. See, man, I forget these names. And Jawan Taylor, there we go. Or Jawan Taylor. See the name and it's like, oh, of course. How can I gotta remember so many names. I'm sorry. So Nolan Skaronski, who also has guard, like a lot of teams could be looking at him as a guard, but he's going in the top 5 here, which you see. Goathouse lists him here as a tackle. Best believe if you're drafting that early, you're probably looking at him as a tackle. So maybe they're gonna move on from one of those tackle. So they currently have. You wanna put your boy Trevor Lawrence in a situation where he's gonna succeed. Whether that's with more playmakers, which they addressed a lot of that during the offseason this past year, or getting the offensive line to be better. Jackson Smith and Njigba going to the Bears. The Bears, they could use receivers. They could use honestly offensive line as well, Smith and Njigba, unfortunately, got hurt in the opener against Notre Dame. Hopefully it's not too serious. Now we see the next quarterback off the board. Anthony Richardson had a banger game against Utah. Well, I think a lot of teams are going to look at him as a guy with like like a Cam Newton, maybe, or a Josh Allen. Maybe if you could he's a great athlete. If you could harness a little bit with that arm, get better anticipation, because typically a lot of people confuse his anticipation and his timing on his throws with inaccuracy. The dude's not inaccurate. He just needs to work on like playing inside a structure and just being on time with his throws. So I like the Lions going there. Michael Mayer's an interesting pick for the Jags. Yeah, okay. Ian Thomas, I know they extended him, but that's all I gotta say. Tony Tremble, they actually got Michael Mayer's former teammate there, in Tommy Tremble, who could be used in a much better capacity than what the Panthers use him as, just really as a backup tight end. And really, you could use him as this tight end to this H-back. They really need to do that. So grabbing Michael Mayer here, it's not a oh my goodness type of pick, but kind of is what it is. Like for me, this is a bit early for Mayer, because again, it doesn't have the high athletic upside. You want to maybe, I don't know what other areas you can go for the Panthers. It's kind of a tough predicament they're in, especially if like you're drafting in the top 10. You gotta imagine you're not too satisfied with Baker, so quarterback's definitely on the table. But we're so far out, it's kind of hard to project that. But I don't think Mayer would be it. Let's go to the next slate of picks here. With the Giants, they go quarterback Will Levis. I did this pick when me and Alex did our 3-round NFL mock draft, which you could go check that out, by the way. But that way you get a nice watch list of players. But Will Levis, hey man, he might be one of the older quarterback prospects, but if he looks like he's a guy that's cleaned up the decision making, that he is consistently going through progressions, then he might just be NFL ready. And I think that Brian DeBall would love a guy like that. Would love that, especially with the athletic upside of Levis. Then Keely Ringo going to the Washington Commanders. Another no-brainer for me. I think that secondary could definitely use a lot of help. Ringo is the top corner on the board. Paris Johnson makes a ton of sense for the Steelers because I'm not sold on Dan Moore. And Okafor, they could get out of that contract, I believe, after the first year if he doesn't show that upside that he showed during like the last stretch of the season last year. Bijan Robinson going to the Eagles. Miles Sanders, man, just can't stay healthy. Eagles are kind of an interesting team to draft for, just because it seems like they got a lot of very competent starters everywhere on the field. And this is New Orleans' pick, so imagine that they're going to be drafting a little bit later, so they're probably in a good spot with Hurts. So, like, maybe taking a luxury pick here in Bijan, who is the best running back in this class, might not be half bad. A guy you could use very dynamically as well. Brian Brazee going to the Patriots. Patriots do love their interior players, and they could definitely get better guys next to Christian Barmore, so I like that. Joey Porter, if you didn't check out last week's Stock Up, was it last week's? No, I guess it's this week's. This week's Stock Up. Then Shoot, the dude had an impressive performance against Purdue where they tried to target him heavily, and he was like not having that today. Does he end up in the first round conversation? I think he very well could. He's got the length, he's got the athleticism, needs to be a little less handsy, at least be a little more discreet with his hands. But I always say I'd rather teach guys to be less physical than, or at least teach someone who is physical to be less physical than vice versa, because then typically that physicality is not in their nature. So Joey Porter could be definitely a hot riser. I have him as I think a third round prospect or like a mid day 2 prospect. He's on day 2 somewhere, but he had a very impressive outing. And then the Vikings go Tyler Van Dyke. Now listen, I know Viking fans might not like this, but I think they're pretty sold with Kirk Cousins. I think they're content. They think they can win with Kirk Cousins, so I think they're going to build around him. Tyler Van Dyke, though, I think he played exceptionally well. I know it was like Betham Cookman, but I think he showed big-time throws, and he really flashed that arm talent, a guy that definitely might be someone we discuss as a first-rounder in this upcoming draft. I like the pick. I just don't know if it's one the Vikings would make. Kayshon Boutte going to the Tennessee Titans. Unfortunately, a lot of things went down with Boutte Sunday night in that game against Florida, where he had a few bad drops, one for a touchdown too. One was more of a difficult catch he could have made in the end zone, but they really just didn't try to make him the focal point of the offense, and that was, I think, a huge problem. And now he's just totally scrubbed his social media of anything LSU related. Will he play again for LSU? There's a lot of questions, a lot about that, but grabbing another receiver I think would be good. Robert Woods isn't probably in the long-term plan, so getting someone there with Traylon Burks, I think, would be very nice. All right, let's keep this sucker rolling. All right, so we got the next pick for the Texans who didn't take a quarterback. And they're not taking one here because now they're kind of all off the board unless you really like Tanner McKee. And they go Josh Downs. Listen, I'm not always sold on Josh Downs, or at least I'm not the biggest fan of Josh Downs. I see him more as a day 2 guy just because he's a guy that operates a lot out of the slot. I get it. It's a twitched up athlete. What he can do after the catch is pretty nice, but I don't know if I'm going with him in the first round. I don't think he's like similarly calibered player as like a Jahan Dotson at that size. But yeah, they go with another guy, and keep in mind this would be similar to their John Mechie pick, right? Who unfortunately has the miss here because of leukemia, but it's a early stage one form of that, so it sounds like he will be back after the season. So I don't know. I don't really love what for a draft that they got Will Anderson. I don't really like the approach. Miles Murphy going to 18. I absolutely love Murphy. This is an absolute steal. He's a physical specimen, and I think that's going to be on display Monday night, Labor Day, against Georgia Tech. If you didn't know, I'm actually recording this one Monday because I was like, hey, there's a couple of these. Let me go ahead and get this knocked out for content later in the week so I could focus on watching these games. And then Jordan Addison, I love this pick actually for the Colts because Paris Campbell can never stay healthy. Getting that nice, speedy, vertical long guy that can come in and play in the slot next to Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman, I think is really good. Cam Smith, they continue to go to the cornerback well. They just grabbed the former Nebraska. Yeah, it's former Nebraska. His name is escaping me at the moment. Cam Britt Taylor. So going with another corner. You could never have too much cornerback depth, and Cam Smith's a hell of a corner, so I don't mind it. Eli Ricks goes a pick later. I would say a very similar prospect to like a Trevon Diggs, and we're not going to see him play because of, or at least I believe we didn't see him play because of injury against Utah State. I haven't gone back watched the Utah State game, so believe it or not, I haven't gone back watch Alabama and Utah State. It was a blowout. It was a cupcake game. I'm more interested in watching these games that are competitive, but Eli Ricks, dude, strong. He's a technician. He's one of those guys that like, hey, I'm gonna lay hands on you. You're only as fast as I'm willing to let you be. I love that solid corner, and he is that type of guy. So him going in this like late first round, he's like a late first maybe early second type of player right now. Jahmyr Gibbs going to the Ravens. Listen, if this was Bijan, I'd be all about it. I made this pick in my own mock draft, where it was just me. But Gibbs for the Ravens, I feel like there's other places they could go, whether receiver, corner. I think Marcus Peters has got a year left in his contract. Linebacker. There's just a variety of different spots I think they could have gone. Trent Simpson, though, one of the spots that Baltimore could have done. Going to the Eagles. Can you imagine that pairing of him and Nakobe Dean? Suddenly this weakness that they've had at linebacker for many years looks real good with Nakobe Dean and Simpson. And then the Seahawks are like, yo, we are a team that wants to run the football. I know we just grabbed Bryce Young. Let's grab some interior talent. And they grab Andrew Voorhees. I love Voorhees. Should have been a day 2 guy if he came out in 2022. He decided to stay. I think he wanted to stick around because he's very loyal to USC. But I like this pick. This is a really good pick. At 24 too, I don't mind it too much because again, we're talking late first round. You could take those guys that are maybe like early to mid second rounders, and that's kind of where I have Voorhees. All right, now let's see the last bit of picks here. Tank Bigsby, yo, you kidding? Listen, Mike McDaniel. If you look at his success in San Fran, what type of backs succeeded under him? Backs that were like journeymen, UDFAs, 6 rounders, Elijah Mitchell, Raheem Mostert, even like a Jeff Wilson. Not like we didn't see this similar success from guys they invested money in or high draft picks. Trey Sermon off the team. We see Jerick McKinnon, who unfortunately injuries played a large role in that. You see Tevin Coleman, who again, another guy, injuries kind of played a role in that. Tank Bigsby, I don't think he's like the type of back the Dolphins would go for anyway, and I don't think he's a first round back. Noah Sewell, linebacker position, really bad for the Chargers. So them grabbing a linebacker, I don't mind that, especially a guy like that's going to be this active around the line of scrimmage. I'm kind of cool for. Tyree Wilson going to the Packers. So this is kind of cool because this is a bit of like a Dean Lowry type of player who really I think fits the scheme very well. But he had a great game against Murray State. It's Murray State. I'm not going to fly off the panhandle. He's a guy that you go back to that Mississippi State bowl game, the Liberty Bowl, I believe. He had a banger game, but it was only when he wasn't matched up against Charles Cross, because when he went one-on-one with Charles Cross, he lost that. This is the guy that went against first-round caliber talent at the tackle position and could not win. He could. Now, being drafted by the Packers here, he wouldn't be used in that role a whole lot. Like, sure, they kick him to the outside maybe occasionally, but I think he'd mainly play that like 3-4 end role. But for me, it's still a bit early. Antonio Johnson going to the Lions is interesting. A guy that can play in the slot. He played great in the slot for the Aggies in 2021. Now he's playing more of a traditional safety role, and a guy that honestly has the size to play out on the outside, so it gives them a versatile piece in the secondary there. Chiefs getting Sean Tucker. Just give up on going running back in the first round because you don't need it. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's fine. Been banged up a lot. You don't need to go and grab a Sean Tucker. For me, if I'm the Chiefs, I'm kind of focusing defense, or if there's a really good receiver available here, I don't know, maybe like a Quentin Johnston, then yeah, I might go with that. But if I'm the Chiefs, I love Sean Tucker, but I don't want any part of this pick. Wow, we got the Bucks going with Isaiah Foskey. Foskey, I thought had a decent game against Ohio State. He's one of these high floor, high ceiling guys. Great length, good against the run. Just needs to show more of a full toolbox of pass rush moves. So him going here, pair him up with Tryon. It's nice. I mean, he essentially becomes the JPP of this defense. So it ain't half bad. And Chris Smith, because keep in mind, Dolphins forfeited that first round pick. Fins up, baby. Love my Dolphins, but come on, man. Chris Smith had a good game. This is a cat, honestly, and he plays a similar style to what you see from the pairing of Poyer and Hyde. Dude's a big hitter. He tracks the ball well underneath. He's always there at the catch point as long as it's underneath. I don't think his range is all that in a bag of chips, but he's definitely going to be one of the better like split safety, box safety options in this class. I didn't get around to actually sitting down and actually watching him a ton as of yet. I think I will this week though, since I did watch the Alabama game and I saw a lot. This guy's so hard hitting. He just doesn't have. I don't think he's the same athlete as like Lewis Seen. But I could definitely see the Bills going here. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. There were some things I disagree with, but it is what it is. That's what this whole draft process is. Looking at different possibilities. We're early on in it. If anything, we're more so just looking at for names that could be first round picks or names we need to put on our radar. So utilize these mock drafts as such. Don't criticize the picks so much. But that's it for the video. Go ahead, do that YouTube thing. And as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.